Hey, welcome back. So, this has turned out to be a somewhat longer than anticipated video. It was just supposed to be a quick one, but it turned out not to be. And let me just start off quickly by saying, if you like what you hear, like what you see, please go ahead and do all the touchies and the feelies and the likies and hit the likies and hit the subscribies. I really appreciate it. Now, I have to start right off the bat by saying I'm a huge fan of The Rock. And you read the thumbnail, you read the title of the video, you clicked on it. Yes, I am at a point where I have lost my faith in The Rock. But I am confident that he can get it back. Because I really do hope that after everything you hear me talk about today, I really hope I am wrong. I truly, truly do. When you're a star, so to speak, or big or successful, almost I would think in any field, for as long as The Rock has been successful in in two industries, there are going to be ups, obviously. There are going to be downs. There are going to be times where you're riding a crest of public positivity towards you. And there are going to be times when the public is not that well enamored with you. It just, kind of goes with the territory. There are going to be times where you're going to get tripped up, where you're going to do really stupid things like Hugh Grant and the prostitute way back in the... what was it, the 80s, 90s? But that's not what I think we're talking about here. I think what we're talking about is the careful crafting of a public face image that may actually be false, facade, a work, to put it in wrestling language, because a big chunk of this is going to be talking about his work in wrestling. And that, to me, is the saddest part of this. Because for me, the biggest appeal of The Rock, that he was genuinely, and he could be, again, genuinely this really nice guy. But it turns out that may be a work. That may be all a facade. Something put on, because he figured out pretty early on that he could get away with a lot of shit if he was nice to the people who, or at least pretended to be nice to the people who actually paid for the tickets to go to his shows as a wrestler, paid for the pay-per-views when he was a wrestler, or went to his movies when he transitioned into Hollywood. So is Rock Mr. Nice Guy a work, or is it the real thing? I think there's been a lot of cracks in his facade, and I think over the last 18 months to 2 years, there's been enough evidence, which I will present today, enough evidence come to bear that puts it squarely in, hey, nice guy, it's a work category. So, everything I'm going to talk about today is common knowledge. It's all out there. There are podcast interviews, there's interviews on Peacock, there are the Wrestlemania 39 and 3940 interviews and documentaries that Peacock has put together, and WWE have been kind of like repeatedly delaying those, and I think you'll find out why, or at least see why, when you hear what those documentary interviews have to say. These are interviews with the key players in the drama that I'm about to discuss. Triple H, Paul Levesque, the new Chief Content Officer of WWE. Cody Rhodes, the current Universal Champion from WWE. The Rock himself, a member of the Board of Directors of WWE, and that's going to come into play a little early on. and one of his, up until recently, frequent collaborators, or at least in his successful movies. There were a string of them, back to back to back, where they would appear in each other's movies. And they actually had a movie together with Gal Gadot, Red Notice. And that is the one, the only, the Ryan Reynolds. There are others, but they are out there. And this is just me connecting the dots. And when you connect the dots, and I fully recognize that others may put the dots together and find a completely different pattern, but when you connect the dots, you get one hell of an interesting story. And ultimately, that's all that wrestling is, telling stories through violence. It's a tale of a tarnished star, someone who was at the very, very, very top, but then through a series of unfortunate events, that star got tarnished. And the star panicked. And there was an attempt to rehab that star at the expense of the number one star in his former industry at the time. And then things went horribly wrong, and instead of the star rehabbing, the entire fan base of the WWE started turning against him in a not so nice way. And the first part of it is directly from an interview with Triple H. Everything's going along fine. It seems like Triple H is having more and more creative control within the company as Vince McMahon is stepping down, retiring, coming back, retiring, the scandal. Even before all of that, to hear Triple H tell it, he's been trying to get his friend The Rock to come back to the ring for years. Maybe not on a permanent basis, but come back. And the Triple H talks openly about that. You step out in front of those thousands of people and you feel the air and the electricity and the hairs on your arms stand up. And that feeling you can't get anywhere else. I've never felt that other than being a musician in front of a live audience. And if it's anything like that, then yeah, you don't get any feeling like that anywhere else. But The Rock was, always politely saying no. He was always kind, he was always respectful to the fan base, everything. But he was pretty honest about how he could make more money with less physical toll on his body by being in Hollywood. So he stayed in Hollywood, and I don't blame him, man. That's a hell of a grind. I mean, yes, the outcomes are predetermined, but the people who break their necks are real. The people who blow their meniscuses, that's real. Those bumps on those plywood floors in the bottom of the ring, those are real. Those rope burns on the back of your back when you're slammed into it at some point, sometimes 20 miles an hour or more, those are real. So yeah, with less physical toll, if you could make more money, why not? I mean, he wouldn't even come for a guest thing, for a mic moment, for sticking his head from behind the curtain going, "Can you smell?" No, at a PLE, he wouldn't do that. For over a decade, nothing, not even a hi. He had no interest. Because he was Mr. Hollywood. And then, the unfortunate series of events. The multiverse started collapsing. The world of Hollywood and the world of professional wrestling, two seemingly unrelated worlds in The Rock's mind, started down a collision course toward one another of pure Shakespearean epicness. What were these two worlds, you ask? In one camp, we have what I call Cody's world. Cody Rhodes, who jumped ship from WWE to help found AEW, the competitor in 2019, surprise, 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 he comes back. He needs to finish his story. He needs to win that one belt his father, the great Dusty Rhodes, never had, could never win. His family has never had it, the Universal Championship. He faces Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 39 and loses. That's the one world. And this is a year-long build-up to WrestleMania 40. This is where The Rock gets involved. The second world, Dwayne's world. And Dwayne's world, unfortunately, involves the hierarchy of power in the DC universe, which did not at all change, at least for Black Adam. So, let's go to Dwayne's world for a minute. The production issues around Black Adam are well documented. Dwayne Johnson, I'm using his producer name, The Rock, is a bit of a control freak. And his $7 production company, bit of a control freak. They're known for being around Hollywood, bullies, for lack of a better word. Arguably, can't be successful in that business without being a little bit of a bully. But certainly, his arrogance, his diva-like behavior, his refusal to work well and play well with others in the sandbox, came back to bite him in the ass. And he would throw tantrum after tantrum after tantrum. The most notable of that was when he said, "I want to have Henry Cavill in my movie." And boss after boss after boss after boss said, "No, you're not going to have Henry Cavill in, but I want Superman." Because Dwayne Johnson knew better than anybody else. Now, the studio, independent of all this, was involved in a sale, a very tumultuous sale. And as you probably remember, there was, at that period of time, a revolving studio head thing going on. There were 2 or 3 different regimes that came in during the production. They finally settled on James Gunn and Peter Safran, and we'll see how that turns out when, funnily enough, the new Superman hits theaters next year. But at that point in time, Dwayne Johnson said screw everything, and during one of the transitions, he went to one transitional boss and said, "I want Henry Cavill. I want him now. You get him from me or I'm done." He loves throwing down these ultimatums, or I'm done. Because he knows the studios are not going to go, especially after they invest how many hundreds of millions of dollars in the making of this film? Are they going to tell him no? Excusez-moi. Of course not. So, they drag Henry out of retirement. The broader fan base is excited because I thought Henry Cavill was a wonderful Superman, and the idea of Henry coming back as Superman was very exciting. And then he was there, and then like Kaiser Soze, he was gone again. In no small part to the ego and arrogance of The Rock. So Black Adam hits. And it hit like one 285-pound turd. We can argue whether it was as bad as people say it was bad as a movie, but clearly it did not make anywhere close to the money that the studio was expecting. It was considered a colossal flop at the time. And it didn't just tarnish The Rock's reputation. It put a Black Adam sized hole in The Rock's reputation. Now, if there wasn't all of this behind-the-scenes drama, primarily driven by The Rock's ego and desire to control content, studio content, his desire to take over the studio, keep in mind, he was just like he was one of the bidders for WWE when they were for sale. He was one of the bidders for DC Studios when it was for sale. His desire to take over the studio and studio content. Then maybe the failure of Black Adam would have just resulted in a collective meh from his family, us, the fandom, and, okay, just another dud in the long line of duds that he seems to have been putting out lately. But that wasn't the case. The flop of Black Adam is inextricably linked to all of that backstage drama. The backstage drama just heightened it. Because The Rock knew better. The Rock had to do X, Y, and Z, and it all blew up in his face. His reputation was smashed. The cachet of his name was smashed. His bankability as a star certainly took a huge hit. And you can all sum that up by saying that, in point of fact, his star was a hell of a lot less bright the morning after Black Adam premiered than the morning before. And things just kept getting worse. There's one thing I know about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And he's a hell of a good promoter, self-promoter. He's a really, really smart man. He knew he had to come up with a new and novel way to rehab his image and rehab it quick, because he had to stop the hemorrhaging, and there's no other way to put it, the hemorrhaging of his fan base. So let's move into the other world for a minute, because this is where they collide. On to Cody Rhodes. So, as I noted, a year earlier, WrestleMania 39, Cody suffered a unbelievably heartbreaking defeat at the hands of the WWE Universal Champion, Roman Reigns, and his minions, the Bloodline. Now, everyone expected Cody to win. Finish his story. Get that one thing that his father could never get. Get the Rhodes family a title in WWE. The top title in WWE. But that didn't happen. And when it didn't happen, it was truly shocking. It was a shocking event. And per convention, when that type of thing happens, the loser goes to the back of the line. So Cody went to the back of the line. He spent that entire next year fighting to try to find a way back to the top of the division so he could earn and get his rematch with Roman for the Universal Championship. Excuse me. It's that time of year. And he did. And it was glorious. It was, for me, Cody's best year so far in WWE. That year between WrestleMania 39 and WrestleMania 40. And he did it. He did it. He earned his right for Cody versus Roman 2. And it was set. WrestleMania 40, main event, night 2, Cody versus Roman for the Universal Championship. And it was going to be epic. This is now more than 2 years in the making. Unbelievable storytelling. Brilliance in the mind of Triple H. Because he saw all of this coming. He had all of this planned, and it was built to perfection. Everyone played their parts well. The lines between truth, fiction, completely blurred. The battle lines and the stakes in this match so clearly drawn. Cody versus Roman 2. It was wonderful. But there was an ointment in the fly. A monkey about to throw in a wrench. Guess what? The Rock is on the board of directors of WWE. And this part we also know from the interview with Triple H. These are Triple H's own words. The Rock just came in a few months before WrestleMania 40. To give you an idea, WrestleMania is around the end of April. The card, at least the main event side of the cards, are pretty much set the previous October. Because they need that time to kind of craft and build up the storyline and the build for that main event fight. They need that 6 months. So Cody versus Roman 2 had been set for about 6 months. Just a couple of months before WrestleMania 40, The Rock walks in. Says, fuck all that. I'm fighting Roman Reigns in the main event. Because fans want to see that. Yeah, fans have been talking about that for a decade. And it's going to make more money than Cody versus Roman 2. Questionable. But make no mistake about it. It was never presented as an option. It was never presented as a what about. I would like to come back. It was, I'm a member of the board. I'm your boss. Cody versus Roman is off the table, and it's me versus Roman. And let's get one thing straight. Because I haven't heard anybody talk about this directly. And it needs to be talked about directly. If Black Adam had been a huge success, had been a Deadpool and Wolverine level success, this video wouldn't exist. We wouldn't be talking about it. The Rock wouldn't have come back at WrestleMania 40. He would have stayed happily in the compound in Hawaii. He would have been making his movies. It would have been perfectly fine. There would have been no reason for him to come back to WWE. And that's the clearest example of how cold and calculated this move was. That the only reason it happened is because Black Adam failed and The Rock needed something to rehab his reputation quick. And the quickest way to do that was to screw over the people he used to work with at WWE. Screwing over his so-called friend of 40 years, Triple H. Screwing over Cody Rhodes, the person who had been carrying the company the same way he did for at least the last 2 years. And even though people don't talk about it, screwing over Roman Reigns, who was trying to stay out of it, but Roman was in an awkward, shall we say, situation. He was basically asked to either support his family, because he and The Rock are cousins, or support his employer. Triple H, Cody Rhodes, his colleague, work colleague admittedly, apparently in real life. They're not buds, but you don't have to be with everyone who's a member of, the place you work with. And his employer. And what an unenviable position for Roman Reigns to be in. And to his credit, you wouldn't know where he landed because he is so good at his job. I'm sure behind the scenes he was pissed. I know behind the scenes Triple H was pissed. He all but said so. But then something bizarre happened. Something really interesting. Fans, people like me, in the WWE universe, we rose up. And we said, no, you don't get to do this, Rock. And keep in mind, I'm sure some people thought that this was kayfabe. You know, the wrestling industry's word for this is a work, this is fake, this is not real, it's just part of the story. But we now know that this was not kayfabe. This was real. This really happened. The Rock really put down his foot and said, I'm your boss, I'm getting this fucking match, screw everybody else. But the fans, rightly so, said no. That's not going to happen. We're not going to let that happen. We don't want you to fight Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40. We want Cody. We want Cody. We want Cody. And The Rock started calling us Cody crybabies. And that's when things turned. Because we saw through The Rock's bullshit. Some people thought it was all part of the storyline. It wasn't. It was real. And I truly believe it is this moment where Triple H became the general, the captain of WWE. The person who the wrestlers now would follow into the gates of hell. The person that they trust. The person they look up to. Triple H essentially went to The Rock and said, look, Rock, look at this. We can't ignore them. You fucked up. We're not going to do Rock versus Roman. But there's something interesting going on here. You've generated some significant heat. And I know a way for everyone to get what they want. For you to get what you want, for Cody and Roman to get the fight that they deserve, that they've earned, and most importantly, for the fans to get what they want. And The Rock, he was still doubling down. No, sorry, I want my fight with Roman. But there was a third player in this. Ari Emanuel, the CEO of Endeavor, the parent company of WWE. Someone to whom both The Rock and Triple H report, but even more importantly, someone they both immensely respect, whose opinion they respect, and who they both agreed, okay, we're going to take our case individually to Ari. I'll lay out my side, Rock says. Triple H lays out his side. Ari is the arbiter. He gets to decide. And that's what they did. There was an impasse, obviously, between The Rock, Triple H. There's a 3-person call. Again, in the Peacock interview, Triple H talks about the 3-way phone call with Ari. Both Triple H and again, to both Triple H and The Rock's credit, they agreed to defer to Ari's decision, and both of them did. They both describe their positions, their respective cases, and to Ari's credit, and this is why he's such a good, astute businessman, he realized that while on a financial business sense, a Rock Roman Reigns fight might seem reasonable, he also realized that in the long run, it would do irreparable damage to his product. Why? Because it would completely undermine Triple H's authority and his credibility with his roster. Triple H is the head of creative now. Triple H is the one who crafts the storylines. Triple H is the one that says, no, it's okay, you're going to get something 6 months down the line. Why the hell would anyone believe anything Triple H says if at any point in time, anybody from the board of directors, not just The Rock, can just swoop in and say, no, you're not going to get that, I'm going to get it. Obviously, in order for Triple H to be a credible leader of his company, which he is now, people need to believe him. And that would be completely undermined if The Rock got his way. Ari understood that. Ari also understood that if The Rock got his way, fans would abandon the product in droves. For exactly the same reason. Why the hell would we bother to invest, engage in the product? A year and a half of build-up and investment, going to the shows, going to live events, watching the TV events, buying product, buying merchandise. Why would we do all of that if just at the last minute a member of the board can swoop in and take it all away on a whim? Obviously, we wouldn't. So Ari sided with Triple H. And I'm going to go out here on a limb that the decision, Ari's decision to back Triple H, more than any other decision in the last couple years post Vince McMahon, has been responsible for the current success of WWE and Triple H as the current head, public face, but also behind the scenes face of WWE. Because the wrestlers have faith in Triple H, because Triple H's bosses have faith in Triple H. And if that's not the way to run a successful company, I don't know what is. It was the best thing that could have happened. But what else came out of that? You know what else was born out of that? Because of Triple H's brilliant mind? Say what you want about him as a wrestler. Maybe he was just mediocre. But in terms of understanding the business and crafting stories, chef's kiss, Triple H. Out of that came the final boss, the ultimate heel and the most violent villain incarnation of The Rock. We saw The Rock do things, man, he had never done or said before, ever. It was vicious, pure viciousness, and fandom ate it up. Cody versus Roman 2 went ahead at WrestleMania 40. Cody won. It was beautiful to see. That was the headline of main event, night 2. The main event for night 1 of WrestleMania was The Rock. He teamed with Roman. He didn't fight Roman, but he and Roman were a tag team, where the two of them beat Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins in a match to determine the rules for the night 2 fight between Seth and Cody. The Rock got his image buffed up a bit. He got to be back in the ring. He got to win back the fandom. Cody got his ring. He got the championship belt. But you know who the ultimate winner of WrestleMania 40 was? Triple H. He came out as the clear leader and captain of that ship. And Triple H is the one who stopped The Rock from doing even more irreparable damage to his reputation, because The Rock did screw up by trying to screw over Cody Rhodes in order to make up for the initial screw up, which was Black Adam. But guess what? Story doesn't stop there. Of course not. Excuse me again. During this whole WWE Rock return debacle thing, cracks in The Rock's carefully crafted Hollywood career veneer started to appear. It became apparent through multiple reports that The Rock had great difficulty showing up to movie sets and TV sets on time, even though he would be number one on the call sheet. Rather than leading by example, which person after person after person after person says you should do if you're number one on the call sheet. If you're number one on the call sheet, you're the first to the set in the morning and you're the last to leave. You learn the names of every single person on that set, every grip, every sound person, every camera person, everybody. Because you lead by example. Instead of doing that, and this is just what he used to do. Maybe he's changed. I don't know. He showed a penchant for petulant, diva-like behavior. Ryan Reynolds has recalled on several occasions how on their projects, it wasn't uncommon to have to wait from anywhere from 3 to 8 hours for The Rock to actually show up. 3 to 8 hours. Keep in mind, this is the same type of behavior that Vin Diesel was complaining about on the Fast and Furious movies. 3 to 8 hours. When asked why he would routinely show up late, there was hemming, there was humming. Sometimes he would say, I needed to get a workout in. Now, anyone who has been around movies and movie set knows one simple truth. They cost money. That money doesn't grow on trees. Every cent of a movie's budget is allocated before filming even starts. It's usually divvied up by saying you have X number of days to shoot. The budget is split across those days. That daily budget is used to hire the number of people who are there, the number of hours that camera is going to be operating. But if the person in front of the camera who they're supposed to film isn't there, that camera has to wait, and the individuals on that set have to wait for that person to show up just so they can do their job. And those people still need to be paid. Now that's extra money for them, which might actually sound like a good thing, but that extra money doesn't grow on trees, does it? Now, I've had some experience managing budgets, multi-million-dollar budgets on national federal research grant projects. And let me tell you, if there's a cost overrun in one area of a project, you don't go back to the government and say, hey, give me more, I got a cost overrun. What you do is you take it from somewhere else in the budget. And that's what usually happens on a movie set. If there's a cost overrun because The Rock was 3, 4, 5 hours late on day 121 or day 5 of a budget, it's not added to the cost of the movie, usually. That money comes from somewhere else in the budget. It means that an actor doesn't get a job. It means a scene is cut. It means other shots are cut. It means other people lose their job because The Rock couldn't get his ass to the set on time. That is typically how cost overruns are dealt with. But sometimes cost overruns are dealt with by having money magically appear and added on to the budget. The producers, that's their job. They will go and beg more people for more money. And when you hear about the cost of a movie ballooning, the budget ballooning, guess what? That's why. Cost overruns, production overruns, because it takes longer to shoot the movie than was anticipated. Sometimes for legitimate reasons. Sometimes because the actor can't get his ass to set on time. Now, if you ask me, there's one simple remedy that's just not happening, and I call it dock the Rock. Because to me, it's the thing that makes the most sense. If a movie costs an extra $150,000 because The Rock can't get his ass to the movie set on time, then that $150,000 comes out of The Rock's $20 million or $25 million, or in the case of the new movie Red One, $50 million. That just makes the most sense to me. Should come out of his pocket. Shouldn't come out of other producers' pockets. Shouldn't be added to the cost of the production of the movie. If you can do your job and be respectful of the other people you are working with and get your ass to a place on time, within reason, if your kid's sick, that's another thing altogether. We're not talking about that. Then yeah, should come out of your pocket. I don't know. That just seems to make sense to me. But we all know that's never going to happen. So why did Red One cost over $250 million to make? Because it sure as hell doesn't look like a $250 million movie, I'll tell you that. Part of the reason, I'll be willing to bet you, production overruns. Okay. So we've gone into what happened between WrestleMania 39 and WrestleMania 40, Black Adam, his reputation and disrespect for his colleagues, producers, even though he's one of them on his own products. I don't know. But another note before we start wrapping things up here. At last year's WrestleMania, there was a fan signing event. Now, how these usually work, wrestlers are available for a period of time, maybe about an hour. You've got Rhea Ripley from 4 to 5. You've got Punk at 5 to 6. You've got the Gallus brothers from 6 to 7. Fans pay for each, and then they'll go from one to the other, to the other, to the other. Key thing being you're keeping it flowing from one wrestler to the next wrestler to the next wrestler. Everyone gets paid. Everyone gets happy. You know, things may be a little, you might get a little 20-minute overrun, 30-minute overrun. So by the time you're at the end, just like a doctor's office at the end of the day, things are running, a little late. That's to be expected. But we are talking about The Rock here, aren't we? So The Rock was scheduled for a particular time. There were wrestlers who were scheduled before The Rock. There were wrestlers scheduled after The Rock. In this particular case, the wrestler scheduled right after The Rock, if memory serves, was Bayley. Fans paid. Fans waited. And waited. And waited. He showed up 4-5 hours late. At least. Fans were really pissed off. Because they had paid money for this. And it's not just that they had paid money for the time he was supposed to be there. But if he was 4 or 5 hours late, that means they missed 3, 4 other people that they had also paid money for. So he was disrespectful to those fans, disrespectful to his fellow wrestlers. Bailey was really pissed and had a few choice words for him. We now know from reporting that for at least 3 of those hours, he was sitting in his car in the parking lot of the venue. Maybe he had heartburn, maybe he had diarrhea, we don't know. But one thing is for certain. If he starts treating his fans like he treats his fellow actors and fellow movie producers and film and television producers, he ain't getting his image rehabbed anytime soon. So for me, the obvious question that comes out of all of this is this Mr. Rock nice guy thing a work? Is it all an act? Is The Rock actually a nice guy? Does he care about his fans? I think on a superficial level, he does. He wants them to be entertained. Because if they're entertained, that means they're going to give him money. It is a transactional relationship. But I honestly now, and this is why I've lost faith, for him, I don't think it's anything more than that. I don't think it's more than a transactional relationship. Does he think anything more about his fans? For years I thought, and now I think more than ever, that he's been spread just way too thin. There's no way there are enough hours in any given day for him to do everything that he says he needs to do. At least not without shortchanging someone. So for years I think he's been playing triage. I think he judiciously picks who gets screwed today. Because there just ain't enough hours in any given day for him to do everything he needs to do. But he got caught between a rock and a hard place. As things ramped up between his additional, new, unexpected WWE commitments in the ramp up to WrestleMania 40 and his existing commitments to his Hollywood career, things came to a head. And his fans were then added to the list of those who he was willing to screw over. And that is completely new territory for The Rock, because I never thought that is where he would go. But lest you think I would leave you in the land of negativity, no. I have a couple of interesting things to think about, new directions, because I do think, deep down in my heart of hearts, that not everything The Rock has done has been sheer transactional in nature. I think I would like to believe that he actually does genuinely care for fans in the way that he wants us to believe that he does. So, lest you think that everything I've just been saying is completely wrong, I have 2 words for you to think about. John Cena. Contrast what The Rock did with coming down with his edict from Mr. Board of Directors dude. Contrast that with what John Cena is doing right now. Did John show up like a Brahma bull in a china shop and say, "Give me my match because I'm on the board of directors"? No. A full year ahead of time, he said, 2025 is my retirement year. I'm going to have X amount of matches. I'll be at these PLEs and house shows. I've also cleared my calendar of everything else so I can devote myself 100% to WWE, because that's what you deserve, WWE. That's what you deserve. And you can say what you want about John Cena, but that, my friends, that's pure class. Pure class. And that's what total respect for Triple H is. That's what total respect for your fellow wrestlers is. That's what total respect for the company is. And most importantly, that's what total respect for the fans is. And in just a few short weeks, the retirement year begins. It's what The Rock should have done. And when The Rock comes back to WWE, and he will, he should follow John's lead. Maybe not a year, but he certainly should do it the right way. You should conduct your business with respect for your peers, your colleagues, and the fans, or you can conduct business the way The Rock does. It's just the way I see it. One more last really intriguing thing. One last development in Dwayne's world. The Rock has recently completed work on the Mark Kerr biopic, Smashing Machine. Mark Kerr is a groundbreaking MMA fighter. Fascinating life story. I can't wait to see this thing. I never saw The Rock as the lead in the film, but it's very interesting. And certainly a big departure in terms of acting for The Rock. While he certainly had a number of dramatic, shall we say, moments nestled, sprinkled throughout his action fare, The Rock has never really done a full-out, proper, dramatic role. One that requires him to do a heck of a lot more than bounce his rippling pecs and arch that wondrous eyebrow of his. Which begs the question, why this movie? Why now? Okay, yeah, those are questions, not questions. Is this a second strategy towards post-Black Adam image rehab? And what happens if he knocks it out of the park? What if the movie becomes a critical gem and his performance garners lots of critical acclaim? What if people talk about awards? Is his image rehab mission complete? Is it mission accomplished? Does he back away from the final boss, saying F you to Cody Rhodes' mother, which is what he did? He might have signaled what's coming up. After recently being announced as main eventing one of the two nights at the upcoming WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas next year, The Rock was quick to clarify that his schedule is so busy, chalked up, that he can't really 100% commit to that. Oh, really? Is The Rock, perhaps, waiting on reception to the Smashing Machine? If reception is good, The Rock's schedule remains booked and he can't make WrestleMania 41? If reception, critical and otherwise, is bad, if the movie bombs, here's what I predict. The Rock is going to headline either one or both nights of WrestleMania 41. I do hope I'm wrong. I really do. But I don't think so. And I think we are caught in a hopeless revolving door of The Rock using WWE to rehab his image, to make movies which bomb, which gets him back to WWE, which makes more bad movies. You see the pattern here. Please tell me I'm wrong, because this has to stop. And with that, my friends, ciao for now. Love you.